all the audit procedures on the sample. We will perform all the audit procedures on the sample, and whatever opinion we get on the sample, okay, that we are going to project on the final financial statements. Okay, so this is what we did yesterday, and we also understood certain precautions that we have to take while doing audit. Okay, we know that there are some areas where sampling cannot be done. Okay, so those places do not apply sampling. Like for example, unusual transactions, related party transactions, high monetary value transactions. Okay, so these are areas where we say that sampling would not be suitable. So there we have to check all the transactions in detail. Okay, then we also studied about, we understood those different methods where the last thing we did was judgmental sampling and non-statistical, statistical sampling, where we understood the approaches of sample. Okay, that means when the auditor does the audit, two approaches, that is the way he conducts the audit using sample, will be with two methods. One is called as judgmental, that is truly non-statistical sampling, and the other is called as the statistical sampling. Non-statistical, very simple, using the previous experience of the auditor, he will choose a sample. Okay, based on that, whatever sample is chosen, he will perform the procedures on those samples, and then whatever he got answer on those samples, he will project it on the main financial statements. Logic understandable? Then, when we did statistical sampling, we understood we are going to make it more scientific. We are going to bring in mathematical and statistical information or knowledge to apply on the population and get the samples. Then we will do the procedures on these samples projected to the financial statements. Today, the most widely used way of choosing a sample is statistical. Okay, we use the probability theory, we use mathematical or some other theories, wherein we are going to simply apply them. Whatever samples are drawn, we are going to use them to conduct the audit. Okay, then we also understood about the population. Okay, what is the population? The entire set of data on which we need to draw a conclusion is called as a population. So if you want to talk about only purchases, then the list of all the purchases is going to be your population. If you want to talk about sales, all sales are going to be your population. If you talk about overstatement of debtors, list of debtors will be your population. If you talk about understatement of creditors, then depending upon sales invoices, purchase invoices, disbursements, okay, supplier statements, all these are going to be your population. So depending upon what is your intention, what is your objective of the conclusion, you're going to take your population. Population has three important characteristics which have to be complied with, have to be there. Otherwise, that population is not suitable for us. We will not be able to give opinion on that. So the first one, we say it has to be complete, end to end. That means for us, from April to March, all transactions that happened in that respective area should be covered. Second, reliable, accurate. Okay, and that how will you confirm? By looking at the internal control system. And last is appropriate. Appropriate as in, yesterday I gave you the example where we had to check overstatement of debtors and understatement of creditors. And we understood how the population will change depending upon the need of the auditor. So these three important characteristics are must to be present in the population. So once again, for your understanding, first is called as, it has to be complete in all respects. Second, reliable and accurate. These three have to be there. Logic understandable to everybody? Okay. So now let us take up the next part of the topic, which is a little different. I mean, it's very interesting. From now on, you'll understand how we choose samples. Okay. So write the next heading as stratification. Stratification and value weighted sample and value weighted selection. Stratification and value weighted selection. Weighted, yes. VEIGHTED. Value weighted selection. Okay, we'll do one by one, you'll understand. So the first one is called as stratification. Okay, stratification, pretty simple concept. Yesterday also we touched upon it. I gave you the meaning of the two important types of populations. One is called as homogeneous population, other is called as heterogeneous population. Okay, now Imagine we have 4 different divisions: north, south, east, west. And we are going to check sales. Okay. So the population is what? The entire set of data. All the sales taken together is going to be my population. But tell me, is this a homogeneous population? No, because we have 4 different branches, and one is in north, other south, other east, and then west. So what I will decide is, instead of I choosing samples directly from the main population, I will first subdivide the population into subparts. Why subparts? Because they are not homo, they're heterogeneous. Because the characteristics of those sales would not be same. Like maybe the sales price also could be different. Okay, depending upon the location you are in. All right. So what you will do is, this heterogeneous population, which has variety of, characteristics in them, we will try to break it in such a way that they become homogeneous. Homogeneous means they should be of similar items. The variety, there should not be variety of items therein. They should be similar to each other. Okay. So what you do, the entire sales, now you categorize into north sales, south, east, west. Okay. Then what you do is, from every 4 of these subpopulations, you will pick samples. Is everybody with me? From all these 4, you are going to pick samples. These samples will pick using some kind of technique, which I'll be teaching you later on. Okay. So you will choose samples from all the 4. Now what you do is, you are going to perform audit procedures on these samples. Okay. Now, how many subpopulations do we have? 4. So let us, for our ease of understanding, A, B, C, and D. Forget north, south. We'll talk about A, B, C, D. A is north, B is south, C is east, D is west. Okay. So we have 4 subpopulations: A, B, C, and D. Or listen to it very carefully. Now what you will do is, from A, you choose some samples. From B, subsamples. C, some samples. From D also some samples. You apply the audit procedures on these samples that you have chosen from all the 4 blocks. Now, whatever samples, whatever evidences you're obtaining from these samples, tell me, are you going to project them on the sales directly, or are you going to project them on the subpopulation? Whatever answer you're getting in the respective samples, are you projecting it directly to the sales, or will you project it first to the subpopulation?
Subpopulation and then sales.
Very good. You will first project it to subpopulation. So whatever answer you got from the sample A, from sampling units of A, will be only for sample A, for the subpopulation A. From the sampling units of B, subpopulation B. Sampling units of C, subpopulation C. Similarly, sampling unit of D, subpopulation will be D. Now these 4 I'll consider together. I'll see whether what answers I'm getting in totality. And these 4 together, I'll project it to sales. Is the logic understandable? Everybody got it? Okay. So what I do is, the main population, we have variety of transactions. I cannot choose samples directly because they have variety of characteristics. They have variety of rates. There are different methodologies. Everything is different. So they don't have same characteristics. They're not same. So what I do, this heterogeneous population, first I break into homogeneous. I make them of similar characteristics. So what I did, all the 4 categories, depending upon the location, I have broken down. Then I choose sampling units from all the 4 blocks separately. I perform the procedures on their respective sampling units and then take it back to their respective population. I hope the language is clear. Then when I get the answer for all the 4 subpopulations together, I look at them in aggregate. And this answer, what I get, I will drive it to the main population. Then I will tell whether sales are misstated or sales are not misstated. Logic understandable? This what I did is stratification. This what I did is called as what? Stratification. Okay, now listen to this very carefully. Understand the language. When the total population is divided into discrete subpopulations, sampling units are derived, or samples are derived from each subpopulation. Audit procedure is performed on the sampling units of each subpopulation. Correct? The opinions are projected, or the answers are projected to the subpopulation. Then the combination of these subpopulations together will have a projection on the main population. Logic understandable, everybody? This is called stratification. So this total population of heterogeneous, when gets converted into discrete subpopulations, this process we call it stratification. And these small subpopulations will be called as stratum. What they'll be called as? Stratum. So A is a stratum, B is a stratum, C is a stratum, D is a stratum. And every unit that you drew from the stratum will be called as strata. Will be called as strata. So what judgment you give on the strata will be projected on the stratum. And what you project together, all the stratums together, will be projected to the population. I think now the concept is clear. Okay, so the language is when the population is broken into discrete subpopulations. Okay, samples are drawn from these subpopulations. Procedures are performed on these sampling units. They are projected to the respective subpopulation. And the total combination of all the subpopulation will then be projected on the main population. The main population is called as normal population. When you divide it, it will be called as the stratum. And then when you subdivide it, each unit will be called as strata. Clear, everybody? Logic understandable? Okay, so in your books, under first, when you've written the heading as stratification and value weighted sampling or selection, under that A, capital A, stratification. For the word stratification, put an arrow down. Dividing population into discrete subpopulations having identifying characteristics. So similar, okay? Having identifying characteristics. Sometimes what you do, sometimes with the monetary limit you stratify, like 1 to 500, then 5,000, 501 to 1,000, okay? Then 1,001 to 2,000, okay? Depending upon monetary units also you can stratify. Or maybe if you take debtors, then depending upon their age, doubtful for less than 1 year, doubtful for 1 year to 2 years, then doubtful for 3 years and above, okay? So depending upon what is the criteria, you can do the classification, okay? So this would be what? Stratification. You're trying to make the entire population subdivided into some kind of similar characteristics. Because imagine a invoice with 500 rupees, an invoice with 5 lakh rupees. Do you think the risk will be similar? No, because they don't have same characteristic. One is very high value item and one is low. So what do you do in such kind of area? You try to divide them into subpopulations. And then you perform the audit procedure on their respective subpopulations samples. That will be more efficient in performing the audit. Okay, so this process we call as stratification. All right, so continue writing. Write point number 1. The transactions and account balances will be divided into a strata. Okay, come down and just prepare like a flow chart. In the center, put an arrow down. Subpopulation in the bracket stratum. Again, put an arrow down, strata. Okay, strata in the bracket, sampling units. Okay, come down, right? The misstatements of each strata, the misstatements of the stratas, the misstatements identified on the strata are projected for each stratum separately. For each stratum separately. Full stop. These projections for each stratum are then combined to consider possible effect of misstatement on the total population. Come down, example. While testing the provision for doubtful accounts, doubtful accounts means RDD, reserve for doubtful debt. Provision for doubtful accounts the debtors may be classified by age. The debtors may be classified by age. Concept clear to everybody? Okay, all right. Come on, write the next heading as, that is next is B, capital B, value weighted selection. Okay, before that, we'll just get the doubt clear. 50% when fair, 50% statement as the answer. OST, that is practically impossible. Okay, because we are not going to have 50% kind of thing. We'll be making it purely judgmental. Okay, it's going to be the practical experience that we're going to apply. So it is never going to be like a percentage, 50% correct, 50% wrong. Okay, that will not happen practical scenario. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Like 5 lakhs in one place and 5 rupees. Yeah, Aditya, right. All right. So let's continue value weighted selection. Now, value weighted selection is basically we talk about dividing the population only into monetary terms. It is also like dividing the population into subpopulation. But here what we do, we just divide it based on the monetary unit. In what happens stratification, it could be by geographical location, or it could be by, age wise, or it could be anything. Dividing the population into discrete population using any characteristics. So stratification is possible like that. But in value weighted selection, what we do is based on the monetary unit, we divide the population. And then what we do, we are going to focus more of our attention on high value items. What we do on high value items. We try to take 100% of the sampling units from high value items and very few from the lower. Logic is we believe that the risk of material misstatement or potential risk of material misstatement will be higher in high value items. So value weighted and stratification logic is similar, that they are going to divide the population into subpopulation. But in stratification, purely it could be on any geographical location or any age character. It could be anything. Monetary also. But in value weighted, it's only and only what? Monetary. So how it happens, I'll tell you. Like suppose you have transactions like, beginning from 10,000, it goes up to 10 lakhs. Okay. So let us take you taking purchases for your checking, and you have the amounts ranging from 10,000 to 10 lakhs. So what do? 10,000 to 1 lakh, one category. Correct? 1 lakh 1 to 3 lakhs, one category. 3 lakh 1 to 7 lakhs, one category. 7 lakh 1 to 10 lakhs, one category. 10 lakh 1 and above, another category. So how many categories you made? 5. Now what you do, whenever you take the high level items, there you will say we'll check all the 100%. So 10 lakh and above, 100% transactions will check. Okay. 7 lakh 1 to 10 lakh will check only maybe 75%. We are assigning weights to the value. Logic understandable? We are assigning the weights to the value. Then 3 lakh to 7 lakh, maybe 50%. 1 lakh to 3 lakh, 20%. 10,000 to 1 lakh, maybe only 5%. What's the concept? So depending upon the value, we will assign weights and then choose samples from them. Is the concept understandable? Okay, that is called as value weighted selection. We will divide the entire population into monetary units. Assign weights to the monetary units. And in that way, we are going to conduct the sampling. Here, our consideration is that we are thinking that the risk of misstatement or the potential risk of misstatement possibility will be where? In the high value items. So all the high value items we'll see in detail. That is called as what? Value weighted selection. We are going to assign the value to the respective range of the values. We are assigning the weights to the respective range of values. So what are the values range for me? 10,000 to 3 lakhs. 3 lakhs to 10,000 to 2 lakhs. Okay. Then 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs. 5 to 7. 7 to 10. 10 and above. So these are all my values that I've broken. Now I'll assign weights. How weights I'll assign? For one, I'll give maybe 100%. I'm going to check for all the 10 lakh and above. 75%, 45%, etc. etc. Concept understandable? This is called value weighted selection. The basic difference between stratification and value weighted is, in value weighted, we'll divide only based on monetary unit. No other criteria. Stratification, you can divide it by any criteria. Logic understandable? Product wise. Product A, product B, product C, product D. Service wise. Geographical location wise. Age wise. Anything. But here only and only monetary unit. Concept clear to everybody? Okay. So please write value weighted selection. Under that, point number 1. Identify sampling units as individual monetary unit, as individual monetary units that make up the population. Okay. Next point. The benefit of this approach is that audit effort is directed to large value items where the risk of misstatement would be higher. Where the risk of misstatement would be higher. Okay. Now all of you please open your textbooks. Come to page 7.2. I want you to read by yourself stratification and value weighted selection. All the points by yourself so that you have understood it perfectly. If there is a doubt, please let me know. And once you complete it, please ping me on the chat box. Please read stratification and value weighted selection, page number 7.2. And when I ask you to read, everybody must read compulsorily. Okay, if there's any doubt, any difficulty, please let me know. What is the next topic planned by us for audit?
Audit report, ma'am.
Audit report next one. Okay, very important. Okay. Done, everyone? Okay. Now let us do something very, very interesting of this topic. Okay, very interesting part. So it is all with regard to risk that we are going to study now. Okay, very interesting part it is. So all of you, please write the heading as factors affecting size of sample. Factors affecting size of sample. That means because of these factors, we are going to decide whether we require more sample size or smaller sample size. Sample size means what? Number of samples. Do I require 100 samples? Do I require 10 samples? Do I require 25 samples or do I require 10,000 samples? Okay. So depending upon these factors, our sample size will change. Okay. So please write factors, underline the word, branch into 3 parts. So there are 3 factors. Okay. Okay. So first part, it is called as tolerable error. Tolerable error. Tolerable error. Second, expected error. Third, sampling risk. Sampling risk. Okay. Now, these are the factors that we are going to study now in detail. Tolerable error, expected error, and sampling risk. So what is most important here is the sampling risk, which I'll take you through slowly. But as of now, first let us understand what is a tolerable error and what is an expected error. Now, tolerable error, go with the word tolerable, bearable. Okay. Now, what the auditor will do is, when he is going to choose samples, he is going to fix a limit for tolerable error. Like how we put materiality level in the planning. What we say, up to this item, for us it is okay. Beyond that, if there is misstatement, it is material misstatement for us. Correct? Similarly, while drawing samples, what the auditor will do, what the auditor does, he will put it a limit. That up to this error, I'm okay with it. If more than that, then this is going to affect my opinion on the financial statements. So suppose you have taken 100 samples, okay? And you have decided up to 10,000 if errors are there. Up to 10,000 rupees error is there, bearable for me. I have no issue with that. Over and above that, if the mistake is happening, that is going to be material misstatement for me. Okay? That is going to affect my opinion on the main financial statements. Okay? That means I should be in a position to give a reasonable assurance that the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement. So that error which you can tolerate, that much error I can bear, will be called as what error? Tolerable error. Up to that limit, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to modify the opinion. Over and above that, you do the error. That means my report will be modified. That misstatement will become material form. That is called as what kind of error? Tolerable error. Up to where your acceptance is there. Up to where the auditor can bear it. And he says, till here, if there is a misstatement, that means I will not modify the opinion. If it crosses over, it could also happen with a number of items. Like for example, suppose 1,000 transactions are there, which have come as a part of our sample. So we have to check how many samples now? 1,000. So the auditor says, if suppose in 50 transactions errors are there, I'll be okay with it. If the errors are in more than 50 transactions, I have to modify the report. So this 50 transactions which I've kept for myself is called as what? Tolerable error. Till that time, I'm okay with it. See, there are lakhs of transactions from where I've taken 1,000 transactions. So if one is wrong, I cannot say entire thing is wrong, right? So up to what amount will it be okay with you that you are not going to modify the main financial statements? Is the concept understandable? So imagine you have 10,000 purchases, out of which maybe 500 is your sample size. In that 500, even if one misstatement is coming, are you going to say purchases are wrong? No. So you have to keep a limit up to which, if those many are wrong, I'm okay with it. Those many is called as what error? Tolerable error. Did you all understand now? The limit up to which the auditor will not, modify the audit report, or will not consider its effect on reporting on the financial statements, or it will be able to accept it. He's not going to change the report or modify the report. That level of error is called as what? Tolerable error. Okay, if the transaction, okay, out of 1,000, if he has taken out of 100 out of 1,000 transactions, and all the 100 are highest value of all of them. No, Aditya, even in that case, what happens? They're totally 1,000 transactions, right? Out of which you have taken only 100 transactions for sample. So in the 100, if suppose one is wrong, will you tell all the 1,000 are wrong? No. So you will keep some limit. Yeah, up to 10, if there are misstatements, I will not have the projection done on the financial statements. But if suppose more than 10 items are misstated, then I'm going to consider the effect of modifying the report. That 10 is called what? Tolerable error. I believe you all understood now. Doesn't matter, Aditya, because if it was very high item, then from 1,000 you have to choose all 1,000. How did you choose only 100 then? You have to check all of them. Yes. Okay. So very high value items, we don't use sampling only. We check all of them. We use sample where we can actually break it and use some samples. For extremely high level items, sampling is not recommended. Yes. Yes, Shekhar, you wanted to say something?
No, ma'am, by mistake.
Okay, no problem. So did you understand what is tolerable error? Everybody? Any doubt
Yes,
here?
ma'am.
Okay, so please continue. So come down and write tolerable error. Maximum error in the population. Maximum error in the population. Which the auditor is ready to accept. Which the auditor is ready to accept. Come down, therefore, smaller tolerable error, comma, big sample size needed. Because see, if you choose only 20 transactions and if you keep 10 as a tolerable error, okay, so in smaller sample size, if suppose the statements are there, easily they'll be identifiable. So bigger the sample size has to be there. Okay, then only it is easy. Then the tolerable error, you can keep it small. Okay, then next one, expected error. You only give me the answer to this. Okay. If there is expected error in the population, you believe in population there is error. So will your sample size be big or small?
Big.
Very good. And if you believe that population has no error expected from you, then size will be
Small.
very. Okay, so please write the next one, expected error. If the auditor expects possibility of error, if auditor expects possibility of error, large sample size is needed. Next line. If he expects population to be free of misstatements, then small sample size needed. So yeah, small sample size needed. Okay, everybody? All right, now write the next one, sampling risk, left margin important. Okay, everybody? All right, now, what do you mean by sampling risk? Okay, you remember audit risk? Risk of giving a wrong opinion on the financial statements. Risk of giving what? Inappropriate opinion on the financial statements. So based on that, can you frame a definition for sampling risk?
The risk
Risk.
that the selected sample doesn't give the wrong, it gives a wrong opinion.
Very good. Yes, Narsima?
Risk of taking incorrect sample and inefficient sample.
Very good. Okay. A risk of choosing a wrong sample is called as sampling risk. That means, let me give you an example. Let us take the example of, we are checking receipts in the bank transactions. So we are checking what? Receipts, all inflows. And what happens is the samples that we have chosen are based on the judgmental approach. we have chosen maybe every month last 10 transactions. So we are checking from 21st of every month to 30th of every month, all the transactions. So what is our samples? Our samples are 21st to 30th of every month. We chose this sample, performed our procedures on the sample. We understood there are no misstatements, so we give true and fair view. Okay, now, later you understand misstatements were in first 10 transactions. What are the misstatements? In the first 10 transactions. And the misstatements were material misstatements. So you ended up giving a wrong opinion? Yes. And this wrong opinion was given because of what? Choosing wrong sample. Such kind of risk is called as sampling risk. A risk that the auditor chooses a wrong sample is called as sampling risk. Logic understandable? So is sampling risk going to be there? Very much yes. Why? What guarantee you have that the samples that you are going to choose are going to have misstatements in them? What guarantee is there? So is there a possibility this risk is going to be there? Yes. Sampling risk. Because of choosing an inappropriate or incorrect sample, the opinion on the financial statement is incorrect. That kind of risk, we call it as what risk? Sampling risk. Now, listen to me very carefully. 100% concentration for the coming 5 minutes. No mistakes here, okay? Now, we do sampling where test of controls, test of details. Compliance procedures also we use sampling. Substantive procedures also we use sampling. Now, sampling risk could be both the places. So now let us understand what happens in case of compliance procedure. What kind of risk could be there? Now, when you check the internal control system, you chose certain samples. The samples that you chose told you that IC is very good. The samples that you chose to check internal control tells you IC superb, perfect. But then you realize the other controls which I did not check have deficiencies, have material weaknesses. But because you chose the sample and in the sample you understood control is strong, tell me, it is going to affect your substantive procedures. Correct? So this kind of risk which you found out now is called as over reliance, okay, on internal control. What is it called as? Over reliance. Risk of over reliance. Over reliance means what? Trusting more than required. Trusting more than required. Second, you choose few samples of internal controls. You performed your procedures on these internal controls. You understood controls are weak. But then you realize that except for these controls which I choose, all the other controls are superb, perfect. But then you realize control is weak. So what did you do? You applied more of substantive procedures. You checked all the transactions in detail again because you believed what? IC is weak. And yesterday we studied if IC is weak, sampling will not be suitable. Correct? So this is called as what? Under reliance. You trusted the controls lesser than what was required. Both are wrong. When you place over reliance, what will happen? You will check few transactions. So opinion could be wrong. Opinion could be wrong. But when you place under reliance, you will check what? More number of transactions. Correct? You check what? More number of transactions. So opinion will not be wrong, but efficiency will go down. Is the logic understandable? Everybody understood what I'm trying to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So one is risk of over reliance, other is risk of under reliance. It is there, you say not there. Not there, you say it is there. This happened because of wrong samples. Correct? Now, let us talk about substantive procedures. In substantive procedures, what we check? transactions and account balances. Correct? Now, when you check the transactions, when you chose the samples are saying they are free from material misstatement. They are free from material misstatement. But then the entire population has misstatements. The samples that you chose, no misstatements. So what opinion will you give? True and fair. But is the opinion correct? No. This is placing over-reliance. It is called what? Incorrect acceptance. You accepted they're correct, right? You accepted they are correct, because of which you gave a wrong opinion. Over-reliance. Simple. Similarly, you chose certain transactions for checking. Misstatements arised. But population is correct. The transactions that you chose as samples are showing misstatements. But in the overall population, those misstatements are not many. They're not material. But you are giving what? Are you placing attention on these? No. What are you doing? You say, no, I found misstatements. That means this is wrong. So what you will do? Again, few more samples you choose. Again, you check. So it is affecting your efficiency. Are you understanding? This is under-reliance. The samples that you chose are giving you a wrong impression of the total population. In simple language to understand, they are not representative of the total population. Is the concept understandable, everybody? So we have two types of risk in sampling: under-reliance and over-reliance. Over-reliance is trusting extra. Under-reliance is, they are good, but you don't trust. Under-reliance will increase your work. Because you don't trust, you'll do more work. Over-reliance could affect your audit opinion. Because you trust and reduce your work. Because of which you could end up giving a wrong opinion. I believe the concept is clear to everybody. Did you all follow it? Everyone? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Okay. As we write, things will be even more clear to you. So did you understand what is sampling risk? Okay, exam question this is. All right, everybody, please write sampling risk. Okay, the way they define is how you know. The conclusions drawn on the sample, okay, will not be the same as if the conclusions were drawn if overall population was checked. See the definition of audit sampling risk. The conclusion drawn on the sample would not be the same as all the transactions were checked in the population. That is called what risk? Sampling risk. Why? The conclusion that you drew on the sample, is it matching with the population? No. That kind of risk is called as what risk? Sampling risk. Choosing wrong sample. That is, the conclusion drawn on the sample will be different if the same procedures were applied on total population. Logic understandable now? Okay, so please write. It arises from the possibility that the auditor's conclusion based upon sample may be different from the conclusions which would be drawn if the same procedures were applied on entire population. If the same procedures were applied on entire population. Is the definition clear to everybody? Okay, come down, write the next point. So if you want low sample risk, okay, the sampling risk is low, sample size should be high or low?
High.
Very good. Large sample size will be required. To reduce the sampling risk means what? You have to perform the procedures on the samples. So on more samples you perform, risk will come down. Correct? Very good, Krishna. Okay, so please write. If the sampling risk is low, large sample is needed. Is everybody else understanding? Understanding, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody? Okay. Viresh?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. If the sampling risk is low, large sample is needed. Next point. It arises both in compliance and substantive procedures. Okay, come down in the left margin, mark important. Sampling risk can lead to two types of erroneous conclusions. Can lead to two types of erroneous conclusions. Okay, branch into two parts. Okay, in the left margin, okay, you have two parts, right? For the two parts, common, take it on the left side. In compliance procedure. In compliance procedure. In compliance procedure, you'll write, and then you'll have the two branches side by side. In compliance procedure, first branch will be, they're just adjacent to each other, okay? Your compliance procedure, your one branch, your second branch. Got it right, everybody? Okay. So first branch, risk of under-reliance. Because in compliance, we check the test of control. So you either rely on the control or you don't rely on the control. That's called reliance, okay? Risk of under-reliance. For the word under-reliance, underline, put an arrow down. Where controls are effective but the samples conclude them to be less effective. But the samples conclude them to be less effective. Easy, everybody? Okay. Then come on the right side, risk of over-reliance. Auditor concludes Controls are more effective. Controls are more effective than they actually are. Than they actually are. Easy, everybody? Getting it right? Okay, then leave 2 lines, come down, exactly down to compliance procedure where you have written in substantive procedures. First will be incorrect rejection. Incorrect rejection. That is, put an arrow down. Auditor believes material misstatement exists. Material misstatement exists when in fact it does not. When in fact it does not. On the other side, right side, incorrect acceptance. Incorrect acceptance. Put an arrow down. Auditor concludes material misstatement does not exist when in fact it does. When in fact it does. When in fact it does. Okay, now come to the total part of first one, where written underlines and incorrect rejection. Okay, put an arrow down again there and write. This will lead to more work to be performed by the auditor. Because he says controls are weak, so he'll take more of transactions and all that. Okay, so this will lead more work to be performed by the auditor. Put an arrow down again. However, audit report is not erroneous. Audit report is not erroneous. Then come on the right side, put an arrow down. This would lead to erroneous audit opinion. This would lead to erroneous audit opinion. Okay, everybody? All right. So that is it with the topic of sampling risk. Any doubt anybody's having? Anyone? I'll give you 2 minutes time for the chart that you've prepared now. Go through it quickly. If there is something not clear, let me know. Take 2 minutes time and read the chart of sampling risk which I've given you now. Okay, an important examination question. Once done, ping me, we'll continue. Once finished, let me know. Yes, completed everybody? Okay. Yes, please write the next heading in your book as sample selection method. Sample selection method. Sample selection method. Okay. Branch into 5 parts. Branch into 5 parts. First part, random sampling. Random sampling. Second, systematic sampling. Third, monetary unit sampling. Monetary unit sampling. Haphazard sampling. Last, block selection. Okay, first understand what we are doing, and then I'll tell you the categories of how we choose the samples. Okay, is everybody with me? Okay, now the heading that you've written is sample selection methods. By far what we were doing is we were learning only about dividing the populations. Okay, and then we say from the population we have to choose a sample, but we didn't understand how to finally choose the sample. In judgmental, statistics is not used, so we can pick any because their experience will be counted. But then in statistical sampling, we require some kind of, mathematical calculation, some kind of technique, some kind of methodology, something like that. Therefore, we need to understand how samples can be chosen. So we learned about population, how we can break it and all that, stratification, or by using the value weighted approach, whatever it is. And now we are going to understand, after dividing the population, what techniques do we have to select the sample from those populations. Okay. So the first one is called as random sampling. Now, random sampling is a statistical sampling. Okay. We have something called as random number table. Okay. It is like the random numbers are generated, and whichever number gets generated, that sample I'll pick. So what happens here is every item in the population will have an equal chance of getting selection. Like, to give you an example, it is like drawing from the lots. You all play housey, or in Hindi we call it tambola.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes. So that is what one person is picking up the numbers from odd lots. Okay, from a lot, he's picking up the number. So every number has equal chance of getting selection. Correct? Something similar to that, we have something called as random numbers. It's a random number table, statistical table called as a random number table. But today we don't use all that. What we do is on the Google Play Store or on the Apple App Store, we have it. We have this directly, applications for generating random numbers. Okay, so using the application on the Play Stores, we pick the random numbers, and with that we choose the samples. Okay, but it will be suitable only for homogeneous population. It will be suitable only for what? Homogeneous population. So it is by drawing from the lots, or it could be using the random number table, or it could be done by using applications from Google Play and all that. Okay, or Excel also. From Excel sheets also we can generate random numbers. By putting the formula, we can generate the random number. Okay, and whichever random number comes in, randomly which is coming in, that number of invoice you pick up. Suppose 10, then 10th invoice. So you have to give random numbers from what to what. So suppose you have 100 invoices. So random numbers from 1 to 100. Then they will generate some 20. Okay, whatever number you want. You said 10 random numbers from 1 to 100. Okay, so some 100 from 100, 10 will get selected. Any randomly 10 will get selected. Then you will perform the procedures on these 10 selected and do the projection on the population. This is called as what? Random number. Okay, or random sampling. But this kind of sampling, which I explained you now, is called as simple random sampling, which is possible only for homogeneous population having same characteristics. What about heterogeneous population having variety of characteristics? Then can you apply random number directly? No. You will first divide the population into discrete subpopulation, stratify them, make the heterogeneous as homogeneous. Then on each stratum, you will apply the random number table. And then you will have the samples to be chosen. Logic easy, everybody? Everybody getting the concept?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So to repeat again, simple random sampling will be used only for homogeneous populations, where you will select the entire population and put in the random numbers. Whichever random number generates, that becomes your sample. Second, if suppose the population is heterogeneous, then you convert that into homogeneous, which we technically call as stratification. On every stratum, you will apply the random number table. And then from every stratum, samples will be drawn. Whatever samples are drawn, conclusions will be projected on the stratum. And then all the stratums together, conclusion will be portrayed on what? Population. I believe you all understood. Okay. So what you do is, in that chart only, for random sampling, branch into two parts. First part, simple random sampling. Other part, stratified random sampling. Stratified random sampling. Okay. Now come down, write first one. Roman number 1, random sampling. Finish the chart completely. That was for a broad view of yours to understand. Okay, come down, write random sampling. Under that, it involves use of random number table. For random number table, underline. For random number table, underline. Random number table, underline. Put an arrow down. Every item has equal chance. Every item has equal chance of selection. Easy till here? Come down. They are of two types. They are of two types. Italic 1, simple random sampling. Simple random sampling. Under that, samples are chosen from the population. Samples are chosen from the population using 3 parts. Using 3 parts. First one, Random number table. Random number table. Second part, help of computer. In computer, we use Excel for this. Okay, we generate the random numbers by putting in a formula. If you know the Excel properly, you'll be knowing about this. And all of you, as your main curriculum, be experts in Excel. Okay, very much useful for your articleship and also for your everyday practice after you qualify. Okay, Excel, one of the most important applications. So try to be an expert in that. Okay, Microsoft Excel. All right, next. Last one, picking up numbers in random way. Like I told you, Housey, right? So picking up numbers in random way. Picking up numbers in random way. Bring all the three under one head. Suitable for homogeneous population. Suitable for homogeneous population. Come down, next one, italic 2, stratified random sampling. Under that, random sampling is applied on each stratum. On each stratum. Again, I won't give you the definition of what is stratification. Okay, you know it. All right. From each stratum. Next, it is simply an extension to. It is simply an extension to simple random sampling. Last, suitable for diversified population. Suitable for diversified population. That is heterogeneous population. Okay, is everybody with me? Okay, come on. Write the next one as systematic sampling, systematic selection. Okay, the very interesting part. Systematic selection means what you do? You will take a range, okay, or you will say like this. First 50th, then 100th, then 150th. So what you say is, we are going to take sampling units in the ranging of, just give me 1 second. Will you not know? Mama पढ़ा रही है अभी, please. We'll do one thing. We'll take up the remaining part in the next class. Okay. All right. We anyway have to start with the next systematic sampling and all of that. Okay. We have still 4 to go. We'll take up in the next class. We won't be completing it now. Okay. I'll take it to you on Monday. I'm not keeping that well. Okay. I'll take it in the next class. Okay. Is it okay with everybody?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Just 1 second. Yeah. One more thing is for your homework, you have to take from all the 24 questions which are given in the MCQs, all the questions which you can manage, please do it. Okay. So I believe you'll be able to do most of them. So all those which you can manage, except for the ones which we have not covered, so that you complete them. Okay. And you also have, no, you cannot do true or false because there are types of sampling. All right. Yeah. So that is it for today. We'll meet you back on Monday. And on Monday, I'll also be checking your homework. Okay. So please complete all your homework. And yes, thank you and have a good day all of you.